Welcome to Kindness Stories, where every story reminds you that there's more good in the world than you think. If you love stories that warm your heart and inspire you to be better every single day, you're in the right place. Make sure you stay until the very end because today's story is going to stay with you long after you've heard it. This is the story of Emily Chen, a girl you might have walked past in the hallways 100 times without ever noticing. She was that girl, with the neat black hair always tied up in a bun, shoulders hunched, eyes glued to the floor as she carried her books tight to her chest. She never spoke much, never drew attention, and if you asked anyone about her, they'd probably shrug and say, "Oh yeah, she's in my class, I guess." But no one really knew Emily. Not yet. The trouble started the day she accidentally bumped into the wrong person in the cafeteria. She had been standing in line for lunch, quietly waiting her turn like always. She'd finally saved up enough to buy herself the big treat on Fridays, one of those giant chocolate chip muffins. For Emily, that muffin was more than just a snack. It was her way of rewarding herself for making it through another week of whispers, stares, and the constant tightness in her chest that came from always feeling like she didn't belong. But just as she got her muffin and turned around, she tripped over someone's backpack, and the muffin went flying right onto the pristine white jacket of Amber Kingsley. The queen bee of Westview High. Amber stood frozen, staring down at the chocolate smear across her designer jacket. Her two shadows, Leela and Brooke, gasped dramatically on either side of her. The entire cafeteria seemed to go silent for a moment, all eyes shifting from the muffin to Emily, who was now trembling, face flushed with humiliation. "Oh my God, what did you do?" Amber's voice was a lethal whisper. She flicked the muffin off her jacket like it was a dead bug, then locked her eyes on Emily. "You're going to pay for that." "I'm sorry," Emily stammered, backing away, but there was nowhere to go. The tables boxed her in. She felt like a cornered animal. "You should be," Amber hissed. Then she nodded at Leela, who stepped forward, her fingers curling around Emily's neat bun. Before Emily could react, Leela yanked hard. Pain shot through Emily's scalp, tears welling up in her eyes. But what happened next took everyone by surprise, even Emily. In that split second of panic and pain, something clicked inside her. Her father's voice echoed in her mind, distant but clear. "If anyone ever tries to hurt you, protect yourself. Don't let fear freeze you." Emily's dad had taught her self-defense since she was 10, after his deployment overseas. He wanted to make sure his daughter knew how to stand her ground. She practiced throws and blocks in their tiny living room, but she'd never used them in real life until now. With a sudden twist, Emily grabbed Lila's wrist, shifted her weight, and flipped her over her shoulder. Lila hit the ground with a thud, stunned and breathless. Gasps erupted around the cafeteria. Amber's eyes widened, her perfect mask cracking for the first time. Brooke lunged forward, but Emily stepped back, palms up, her body tense but calm. She didn't want to fight, but she wasn't going to stand there and let them humiliate her anymore. "What's wrong with you, freak?" Amber spat, but her voice wavered. Emily looked her straight in the eye for the first time. "Don't touch me again," she said, her voice steady, even as her heart pounded so hard she could feel it in her ears. A teacher finally pushed through the circle of gawking students. "What's going on here?" Amber and her entourage scrambled to spin the story, but dozens of phones had already captured what really happened. By the end of the day, everyone knew that shy little Emily Chen had flipped a bully in the cafeteria like something out of a martial arts movie. You'd think that would be the end of it, right? That the bullies would back off, that Emily would suddenly be left alone. But high school isn't that simple. The video went viral within the school. Then on social media, most people cheered Emily on. Some called her a hero, the bun ninja, they joked. Others thought she'd gone too far, that she was dangerous. Emily hated the attention. She didn't want to be a spectacle, she just wanted to feel safe. Over the next few days, the whispers changed. Instead of being invisible, she was now the center of every conversation. The teachers called her parents in for meetings. Amber's mother threatened to press charges, but the video made it clear who the aggressors were. The school quietly decided to sweep it under the rug to avoid more scandal. Emily's dad, who'd been away on his final tour, came home 2 weeks later. When he heard what happened, he didn't scold her. He hugged her tight, told her he was proud, and reminded her that standing up for herself didn't mean she had to fight. Sometimes, the hardest fight was not letting the fear change who she was inside. But what really changed everything for Emily wasn't that cafeteria moment. It was what came after. There was a girl named Sophie who'd been watching that day. Sophie was in Emily's math class, a gentle soul with a stutter, who'd been a favorite target of Amber's clique for months. After the cafeteria incident, Sophie worked up the courage to sit next to Emily at lunch. Hi. Sophie said, her voice small but determined. Can I sit here? Emily looked up, surprised. She nodded, gesturing to the empty seat. They didn't say much at first, but Sophie didn't leave and Emily didn't push her away. Over the next few days, Sophie told Emily how she'd always admired her quiet strength. Even before the cafeteria showdown, Emily laughed at that. She'd never thought of herself as strong. It wasn't long before other kids who once felt invisible started gravitating toward them. A boy named Jamal, who loved drawing but got picked on for being weird. A girl named Priya, who always sat in the library to avoid the mean girls in the locker room. One by one, they found each other, drawn together by the simple fact that they were tired of hiding. They started doing small things, sitting together at lunch, walking each other to class. It wasn't a club exactly, but it felt like one. They had each other's backs in a way none of them ever had before. When Amber's group tried to mess with them again, they didn't find a lone target anymore. They found a group that wouldn't break so easily. One Friday afternoon, after the last bell, Emily found a note in her locker. It wasn't the usual nasty scribble she'd gotten used to. It was a folded piece of paper with neat handwriting. Thank you for standing up. You made me believe I can too. There was no name. Emily read it over and over, her eyes stinging. She tucked it into her bag and went to meet her new friends outside. They sat on the front steps, sharing jokes and stories for the first time. Emily didn't feel like she had to shrink herself to fit in. She didn't have to hide behind silence or fear. Years later, when Emily would look back on that moment, she'd realize that it wasn't flipping a bully that made her strong. It was the choice to stand up not just for herself, but for others, who needed someone to show them they could do it too. And maybe that's the real lesson here. Sometimes strength isn't about fighting. Sometimes it's about showing kindness, even to yourself. It's about refusing to be small just because someone wants you to be. It's about standing shoulder to shoulder with people who remind you that you're never as alone as you think. So the next time you see someone walking alone in the hallway, head down, hair in a bun, books clutched to their chest, remember Emily Chen. Remember that inside every quiet person, there's a story you can't see, a courage waiting to be called upon. And maybe, just maybe, you can be the one who makes them feel seen. Thank you for listening to this story on Kindness Stories. If it touched your heart, share it with someone who needs a reminder that kindness and courage go hand in hand. Don't forget to subscribe, because there are so many more stories to tell, stories that prove one small act of bravery or one kind word can change everything. Until next time, keep being kind. You never know whose life you might change, starting with your own.